the mayor are not coming.
I have.
I-9 Utility Policy Committee meeting to order. There is a sign-in sheet here. If you haven't signed it, please do so. The next item on the agenda is to set the agenda. Any changes to the agenda?
I would make a motion to approve the agenda as provided.
There's a motion by Member Hafner and a second by Member Wheat to accept the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is introduction and guests. And we could go around quickly here. We do have a new person here this morning with us to present. We can introduce ourselves.
All right, sure. I'm Jeff Chamberlain. I'm one of the City of Kalamazoo's representatives on the Utility Policy Committee.
Peter Hefner, I'm representing the Regional Commission.
I'm John Crum. I represent the Regional Commission.
James Baker, I'm a staff member. I'm the City of Kalamazoo Public Services Director and City Engineer.
Steve Senzi, city CFO and first alternate.
Tom Wheat on the township side as an engineer.
Libby Heine-Cogswell, a representative from the Regional Commission. And
Mark Elliott, civil engineer and a designated township alternate.
Anna Crandall, Assistant City Engineer, City of Kalamazoo.
and then,
I think Will's just walking in.
okay. Online, we have from the City of Kalamazoo, Teresa Johnson, Joe Bonholm, and you are?
I'm Aaron Stevens. I'm a principal with Maynard Cust Harrison, and we are the auditors for the City of Kalamazoo.
Thank you. We're just introducing ourselves, and we'll.
William Rowland, City of Kalamazoo.
City of Kalamazoo representative. Thank you. Next item is item 4, acceptance of the May 14th, 2026 draft minutes. Any changes?
I'll make the motion to accept the draft minutes as presented.
I would second that motion. Hefner.
There is a motion by Member Crum to accept the May 14th, 2026 draft minutes as presented, and a second by Member Hafner. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any public comment this morning, either here or online? Hearing none, we will continue with item 6, the director's report. Start with the city commission actions, if there are any to report this morning.
Sure. If I could, I'll go into some of the capital updates and projects, and in that I'll highlight a few commission action items. So just kind of going through the projects. We've got a number of water main projects that are active or going to be starting up. Kalamazoo Ave is starting on Monday. The water main portion of that is going to start on the 27th. Ave and 28th Street, that's in Richland Township, that's substantially complete. That walkthrough is happening today. ML on 35th Street, that's Comstock Township, that's substantially complete. Walkthrough happened yesterday. Richland contract number 3, that's a water main expansion for the PFAS contamination project. That main and services installation continues, so that project is ongoing. There's a number of streets involved with that. Burdick Street, Emerson to Stockbridge, that's a project in City of Kalamazoo. We're in the process right now of award for construction, possibly starting this year yet in August. Fellows Water Main, that's also a project in City of Kalamazoo. that is substantially complete. Just a note, when I say substantially complete, that doesn't mean we're done and walking away from it. There still could be things like restoration or punch list items, so things that we're going to continue to tidy up. But the project, for the most part, everything works and it's all on the ground and things are moving forward. Lead service line replacement work continues in Edison. The City Commission on Monday night just approved a tentative contract award, a resolution of tentative contract award for $5 million to add about another 500 services of work to that area. And that project area is going to continue in 2026 and continue in 2027. Our optimized corrosion control program is started up very successfully in Low. We started that about a month ago. We're seeing very good results out in the distribution system. So the distribution system is maintaining the concentrations that we're feeding at the points of entry. So that's really good news for us. It is showing that the system is taking that additional phosphate up very, very well. So we're going to start up other districts, Northwest High, Super High, the East Side High, and the Intermediate are scheduled for startup in the coming weeks here in August and late July and into August. Station 5 and 14, that's a big station project that consolidates 2 stations, adds iron, manganese, and PFAS removal, and provides some baseline capacity for us for the district it's in, and then also can support some other districts. So piping and electrical work is substantially complete. We're moving into well condos, and we're doing a lot of the structural concrete work on tanks and some of the stuff that's starting to come up above ground. There's also a water main portion of that work that connects those stations together, and that work is beginning to wrap up on Humphrey Street. Station 25, we've got kind of a mechanical and electrical project over there. We're replacing all the station mechanicals, all the electrical, including the well field. So that station's about 45 years old, and so we're doing a complete reboot of all the pumps, all the electric motors, all the VFDs, all the drives, everything, all the electrical lines, and we're also putting in a new permanent natural gas generator that's going to power the entire station as well. Central consolidation, that's going to be probably our next big station where we're consolidating footprint and we're also improving treatment. We continue with property acquisitions. We did connect Station 2 to Central, that is now in service. We're also starting to run PFAS pilot testing for future plant upgrades there. So all of our consolidated treatment plant approaches will include PFAS treatment to ensure that we can provide treatment into the future in confidence with any sort of changing federal regs that may be coming out. That is, for the most part, a summary of commission action items and our CFP program. Moving over to operation, maintenance, and repair. Just to highlight that the 2025 water quality report is out. It should be in your mailboxes. If it's not, we do have places that you can get this, including online, but it should be going out to all customers. Just kind of flipping through the center fold where the staple is all the data on everything. This is all the concentrations and limits of all the items that could be in the water. That includes things that are naturally in the water, things that we want to take out of the water, and things that we're putting in the water. So because you see something doesn't mean it's bad. It might be something we're putting in the water. So just look through that. It has the limits of what it should be or what our desired range are for that. Just wanted to highlight that Kalamazoo Water continues to meet all state and federal regulations. So we are compliant with all those federal regs and state regs. This is also just a good resource for folks who talks a lot about some very different programs that we have, some different policies that we have, and gives you a lot of information about drinking water and then some of the big construction projects or big initiatives that we continue to work on. And with that concludes my report. Libby, I'll turn it over back to you.
Thank you. Are there any questions on that?
Just one, with all the work that's going, is there any additional iron removal in any of these projects?
Yes, good point. So at Station 5 and Station 14, we're consolidating the footprint of those former two stations, and then we will have iron removal built into that. Station 25 doesn't have the iron removal, we're just doing mechanical and electrical replacements, but the new consolidated central will have iron removal, and some of the other stations that are in the capital program are starting to come together 10 years out in the capital program, those will have iron removal as well.
Thank you, thank you. Also, thank you. I have another thank you for you, understand that.
Sure.
So over the last number of years, there's been a lot of work on the lead line removal throughout the system. Are we seeing like the results starting to come? I know they fluctuate over time, but as the removals have gone up, have we seen any of the results come down, or are we still kind of seeing about the same? Just overall, I know we're still below where we're supposed to be, which is always a good thing. So I just didn't know if we're seeing, like, as the lead line removal goes up, are the results going down?
Sure, no, that's a good point, and they are going down. So if you recall back a few years ago, our numbers were trending upwards, high single digits, and we've had some results that were over, like 10 or above for 90th percentile. We're on a increased frequency monitoring, so we monitor every 6 months, and so we never stop monitoring for lead. You can see that our last year results were either 3 parts per billion or 5 parts per billion. And so we are seeing a significant reduction in lead because we're moving so much lead. We're also gonna continue to see those numbers drop and hold true with our optimized corrosion control program. So that optimized corrosion control program really focuses on bringing those numbers down as well. So there's, kind of two pieces to that. One is getting the lead out of the ground, and we're seeing success in that. We're seeing success with the data. And then the next step is to continue to protect the system, continue to protect homes that may have interior lead plumbing, or they may have fixtures that may contain lead, and the optimized corrosion control program will continue to support that. So, great point, and we are seeing a lot of success in the program.
That's good. Thanks.
Yes.
So thank you for the CIP discussion, and most of that was projects that are underway or just being completed. And then if I recall, the next, it never really stops, right? So I recall last year we talked about the CIP for the next year, next 2 to 5 years, and looking at that. And I don't think you're prepared to do that today, but maybe, August, September, to understand what's coming up. What are you guys thinking about? The big, not just day-to-day stuff, but some of the bigger stuff, the station improvements. You mentioned Central, but there's gonna be other bigger projects, so, just the second part of that is not what's happening and what's been done, but what are you looking forward to?
Sure, certainly there is a need to bring CIP forward, that's part of budget, so, we're gonna wanna have the UPC weigh in on and be able to move projects around if they see the need for that. Also provide some, high-level direction on overall CIP, where we're headed with that.
Wasn't that like September, October timeframe?
That sounds a little late, given our rate schedule, so we might wanna talk about bringing that forward a little bit earlier, and, maybe having some presentation and, maybe work session type approach of, kind of getting in and looking at some of the projects, especially as we get long range and like Tom said, kind of talking about some of these big station projects and some of these needs into the future.
So possibly this would be for the August meeting?
I'm thinking probably August. I know Anna's here. I don't know if we were prepared to bring something in August.
Make it happen.
It's certainly gonna be a draft, so I think, getting UPC input on that draft, and that will give us some ability to take that back and work through it, and then we can bring something final later.
Yeah, and I understand that capital improvement plans are sort of always draft, right?
Yeah.
So we're not looking for perfection, just sort of looking for what's on the horizon, right? And then maybe a little bit of discussion on the big stuff,
Yes.
right? So another station, you know, not necessarily a, you know, water main replacement on 3 blocks somewhere. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Then, 6D is the finance. Typically, we have a quarterly finance report. I don't know if that's for this month or next month. And then we have the annual audit presentation today. And we can talk a little bit about the consultant billing then too.
So I'll jump in. Quarterly financial report will be next month.
Okay,
So we'll bring that forward next month. Just based on our close, you know, it's really hard to get a month closed and then turn it around for the second week of the month, the following month. So that'll always be 1 month after.
okay.
And then from there, we have Aaron Stevens here to kind of present and discuss some of the city's annual audit. So if we can pull up, he sent a presentation over, so I'll pull that up and I'll let him run through it.
All right. Thank you for inviting me today, and also thanks to Steve and his team at the city for everything that they do throughout the audit process. They're great to work with. They do a fantastic job. What I plan to do today, it's something a little unusual. Steve and I were talking about on the way in. We're just pulling out one fund. We're going to talk about the water fund today, so we're not, much to the disappointment in the room, we're not going to talk about the entire city's ACFR. So I'll highlight on what I think are the key areas, but if you've got questions, you can stop me at any time, or we can wait to the end, whatever your preference is there. But I always like to start out on the next slide, talk a little bit about the independent auditor's report and what the purpose of an audit is. And the purpose of an audit is to express opinions on the financial statements. The purpose of an audit is not to detect fraud or give you an opinion on your internal controls. If we find fraud, if we've got recommendations on how to improve internal control, we would share those with you in the form of a written report on internal control, but that report is a byproduct of the audit itself. So keeping that in mind, and the reason for that is that the fraud detection, deterrence, prevention, and sound internal control are management responsibilities. But if we, like I said, if we see it, we will share what we see. There are 3 types of opinions that we could express. So on the next slide, I used to put the entire paragraphs from the independent auditor's report on the slide, and the words got tiny and hard to read. So we've got a couple of slides here. We have expressed unmodified opinions on the city's financial statements. So that's the highest level of assurance that we can provide for a set of financial statements. It's what you want to see as a committee, as the city commission. You want to see those unmodified opinions. To put that into some perspective, we could have expressed a qualified opinion or opinions, and that would be some exception to the unmodified opinion. So except for capital assets, the financial statements are fairly presented, something to that effect. Adverse opinion, pretty self-explanatory. It's when the financial statements are not fairly stated or fairly presented. And then the only other alternative that we have would be to disclaim an opinion altogether. We couldn't audit your financial statements. On the next page, in the independent auditor's report, this is the first paragraph on page 10. We highlight that these are your financial statements, or the city's in this case, not ours, and that the management is responsible for the preparation and presentation of the financial statements, and that does include the internal control over that preparation and fair presentation. And then our responsibilities on the next slide include obtaining reasonable assurance, but not absolute assurance, that the financial statements are free from material misstatement, but not all misstatement. So, and we say that because we don't look at every single transaction. We make sample selections. We test their internal controls. I say they, so they're yours, but we don't look at everything. And quite frankly, you wouldn't want to pay us for everything. So that is why those kind of qualifying words are in that paragraph. But I go over those because I think there's a perception gap a lot of times about what people think an audit is and what we really do. So I like to touch on that briefly, even though we're just talking about the water fund. Wanted to touch on the independent auditor's report. The water fund financial statements are presented on pages 49 through 56 of the city's ACFR. And they primarily have a long-term focus. They are prepared on a full accrual basis of accounting. I didn't duplicate the financial statements in this presentation. I do have some charts and graphs that I'd like to go over, kind of big picture items. So on the next slide, it's just charts and graphs that I'll go over. So really the fun starts on the next one, on the next slide there. I did put 10-year trends or graphs in here. It does get a little small, maybe I should have stuck to 5, but I wanted to show this visual perspective of the revenues, expenses, and total net position for the water fund over the past 10 years. If you can read it, and you probably can't, but in 2018, you'll notice that the revenues did exceed expenses, yet your total net position did decrease, and that was because of the implementation of GASB Statement 75 and the OPEB liabilities. So that is why that happened, but since then, it's been an upward trend for total net position where revenues have exceeded expenses. On the next slide, I broke that total net position down into its components. So you have unrestricted, restricted, and then the amount invested in capital assets net of any related debt. And I do this to highlight the fact that you don't have that total net position available for future use. What you have available for future use is that green portion of the bar. So it's a little bit of a, when you look at the previous slide, you think, wow, we've got all this money we can spend. You really don't. What you have available is that green portion of the total net position. The restricted part, certain bond covenants that you have, so restricted for also, so you have bond covenants for debt service, repair, replacement, and improvement. But then you also have amounts restricted for the net pension asset and the net OPEB asset. You can't spend that money on operations, so it is carved out and included in the restricted portion of net position. But the most significant part of that bar, that blue bar, is the amount you have invested in your capital assets. You can't spend your capital assets. You could, but you'd have to sell them first. And it would be like selling the car to buy gas, right? That's not gonna happen. So what you have available for future use is that green portion of the bar. Couple of other trends that I looked at on the next slide. We've got the current ratios. So this is a measure of liquidity. How capable are you in paying your bills as they come due? You do see a dip there in the middle of 2021. But you've ranged from 3 to 7 times. So you could cover your obligations 3 to 7 times over your current obligations with your current assets for the past 10 years. At December 31, 2025, it was a little more than 6. Highest point, obviously, was the year before. In 2024, it was at about 7, which is excellent. So you can obviously pay your bills. The next slide here, this is kind of a longer term metric comparing the unrestricted portion of net position, so that green portion of the bar, to your expenses. And I factor out depreciation and amortization because those are non-cash expenses. So this is just the cash expenses on a full accrual basis. But over the last 10 years, you obviously had a downward trend leading right into the pandemic. So that didn't help. But since 2021, it has increased in your, what I would say, at a pretty good range. It was at about 225% at the end of 2025. So meaning if your expenses held at the 2025 level, the water fund could operate for approximately 27 months. We can't look at a full accrual financial statement the same way we look at a general fund, for example, because there are different bases of accounting. So when we talk about, well, what's a good net position to have, or a healthy unrestricted net position to have, I like to look at it, and admittedly, I'm not a rate setter, but I like to look at net position or the unrestricted portion and say, well, you should have 2 to 3 months of operations as a baseline. Your operating expenses less depreciation were about $17 million. 3 out of 12 months there, it's about $4.3 million. But you also have to pay your debt service. So principal, when you make that payment, it reduces the liability. Interest expense is not operating, so it's what I would call below the line. Your capital-related debt service was about $11.1 million in 2025. And then you have OPEB-related debt of $551,000. So, call it, $11.7 million roughly in debt expenses. But then the third piece of that unrestricted net position, what I would call minimum goal, would be your capital. And so much discussion about that already today. What are your capital needs, and what do you plan to do going forward? And I looked at your minutes, I think it was maybe 2 meetings ago. The capital improvement plan has about $36 million, which would include planned bonding of about $19 million. So if you borrow more money, then your principal and interest goes up. So again, you have to add back to that minimum, but you plan to finance about $17 million. So adding those three together, roughly, I would say your minimum unrestricted net position should be roughly $33 million, and you ended 2025 at about $38 million. Almost $39 million. So it all does depend on the capital. It's a big piece, and it depends on what you want to do there and how much you want to borrow. Will have an impact on my rough calculation of what a minimum net position would look like. Then I put in this last line graph after I talked to Steve. This is one I think you look at and use quite often. I pulled this information from the unaudited data out of the ACFR. There is a table in there. It's table 13 if you're interested. It's on page 217 of your debt service coverage ratio. So internally, as I understand it, your target is set at 1.4. Your debt service coverage has ranged from 1.73 in 2021 to 2.84 in 2023. It was just under 2 at the end of 2025. Not a lot of presentation there, just some visual perspective of the last 10 years. Like I said, I didn't duplicate the financial statements, but most of the time I find people like the pictures better than the financial statements, so I thought I'd bring the charts and graphs. I went through that quickly.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm trying to be brief.
I'd like to add to it, the discussion. So, I'm a CPA, I've done exactly what you're doing before, partner in an audit firm or what have you, and I worked on governmental entities. And I would just point out that everybody should have received the audit. I think Libby emailed it out. And interested other folks, you can get it off the Michigan Department of Treasury website, and perhaps the cities, I just went there to Treasury, so.
Yeah, we post on the city's website every year.
And I wanted to point out that if you look at the statement of cash flow, just some interesting things. $37 million worth of capital for 2025, which that's a huge investment in the system. And then in the back of the audit report or ACFR, there are a multitude of tables, statistical tables. There's over 50 of them. And in there's at least 10 or more about water. So if you got a question about water, take a look at those tables, because the bond coverage ratio of 1.99 or 2 approximately is in there, but also how much water was lost pumping versus sales. How many meters are there in the city, out of the city, who's the big industrial users, et cetera, et cetera. Also, at the very back of the report, there's a letter to the city commission, and it talks about significant estimates and things of that nature. I referred to it as communications with the audit committee, but the city commission. And that's worthy of a read as well. So if you want to get the report, it's on Treasury's website. A lot of data in it, a lot of great information in the statistical section. And so I just want to add that to it as people have it. And take a look at the very back, it's pretty interesting. Just the statistical stuff, it's always kind of intriguing. And also, congratulations to Steve and his folks I didn't see any issues in your letter to
None.
the commission, and otherwise, I think there would have been a note of there's some issues. But it says didn't identify any material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and it's kind of a boilerplate letter from my perspective, so congratulations to the city and Steve, and thanks for the information.
Absolutely. And I concur, they're great to work with. They do a great job.
Thank you. Peter? Any other questions
just if I might, can we get your PowerPoint on the city's website so that on
Sure.
the UPC?
Well, I don't know. That's up to him.
Yeah, we can get that added to the UPC site.
Thank you. And again, very good. Congratulations, Steve, as well. Thank you.
And if you don't wanna stick around, you don't have to for us, I don't think, unless somebody has some questions you wanna ask after the fact.
Well, don't ask me twice, huh?
Okay, I think we're good to move on. Thank you very much, Aaron.
Thank you.
The quarterly consultant billing, that's something this group, this board decided to look at quarterly to understand where the billing from the members stands.
Right, so
For
we
the
would
annual
ask
budget.
for them to add that next
Yes,
quarter,
we'll,
or next meeting?
and I think maybe we could just email that out to the membership. I don't know that it needs to even come back on
Can
the
you do
agenda.
that, Steve?
We can, yeah, I'll have to work with James and his team on how they mentored it, but yeah, we can pull that.
Yeah, so maybe you bring that with the financial report each quarter, does that make
Oh,
more sense?
that would make sense,
We
yeah.
we can add that as part of that, yep.
That would be good,
So that's just to see what has been billed?
yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
To know we're not going over budget, yep.
okay, good. But the consultants can still bill monthly.
Yeah.
You're just gonna report it
This is
on
a
a quarterly
report
basis.
on that. Yep.
Just so he doesn't have to bring something every
Yep.
meeting, or
Yep.
every whatever.
Then the next thank you, and then the next item is item 7, unfinished business. A is the utility financial policy amendment, and this is an update on the status. We've had discussion, a little bit of discussion, the last several meetings on this item, and I think there was gonna be more evaluation.
I don't know
Evaluation
anymore.
of whether we needed to change the utility financial policy for water, or whether we didn't.
So I guess I can discuss, we did meet with Peter and Stantec to kind of discuss, his concerns and where we are at with the calculations. Long story short, I'll kind of cut to them. I would like to spend more time analyzing this. I don't think it's gonna have any effect on the current year's rate calculation, just given our current cash position. It's more of a down the road. We put this policy in place 2 years ago. As I reread it and with fresh eyes, I don't know that it's as clear as it should be to others. Particularly looking at, we reference material non-cash accounting adjustments. That could mean different things to different people. I think we need to specify that. But by and large, Stantec is doing a version of a current assets over current liabilities calculation. Comparing that to our policy at the moment, we just use a current unrestricted cash position. When I compare that to last year's rate model, it's a difference of about $2 million in total, but we're well over the threshold. The threshold is somewhere around, 17 to 19 million, and our difference is, between 34 and 36 million in available cash to fund that restriction, or that reserve. And then just kind of as a reminder here, this reserve is covering what used to be in the old utility financial policy to cover, the emergency capital improvements along with the operation and maintenance fund. I think, when we developed this, we added additional coverage in there, and maybe we can specify more on that to deal with items like DWSRF loans, which are upfront funded by cash and then on the back end received. So we have, roughly $80 to $100 million in DWSRF projects at any time right now. That means that we could have $10 million outstanding that we need to be able to front load with cash on top of normal operations. So all that, we've done some digging, we've done some looking. I'd like to really take some time to polish a policy, maybe work with Peter maybe on the side to kind of then bring something back in the future. I just don't want to rush anything, given that, it's been 2 years. I do see some need for improvement, but nothing that's going to affect the rates in the given year.
Thank you. So, is it fair to say that then this will get worked out as the rates are developed for next year?
Yeah, I mean, we can have Stantec, they've agreed to, they'll calculate their way, they can do their calculation and our calculation, just kind of compare the two, see if it creates any difference, but like I said, given our current methodology, or our current cash basis, we're not going to, it's not gonna affect anything at the moment. The biggest driver is that debt service coverage ratio.
Okay. So should I leave it on as an unfinished business?
Yeah, I think so.
Just will,
Yeah, we can,
there
yeah,
might
we
not
can
be
leave
an
it on.
update for a few more months, but.
Yeah, absolutely, because
Okay.
yeah, I really,
So we
really,
don't
if it
forget
takes
it?
time to get it absolutely right, so we don't have to readdress it.
Yeah, and I think you could at the next meeting say it's work in progress and that's sufficient because you've just gone through a lot of various calculation stuff that you need to consider and maybe even talk to bond counsel, so I totally get it.
Thank you very much. Item number 8 is new business. I think typically the 2027 rates development, we talk about kicking it off in July and try to look at the schedule of when that might come back to this group for review and discussion. We've talked about the capital already for the water. So I think last year we did the review of the proposed rates with Stantec in September and approved, then had a month to consider them and brought it back in October for a recommendation by this group. Does that appear to be a similar schedule this year?
Yeah, that sounds in line with what we would anticipate. We are planning to bring a water and wastewater utility rates to the city commission in a work session broadly in November. So that would coincide well with that timeline.
So a capital review next meeting would be kind of right in line with the process for including that in your rate development or what have you. Makes sense.
I would agree with that.
So I think, well, so, just get it in my mind here, so we talked about the CIP in August, we talked with Stantec in September,
And look at the,
have further discussion in October.
I think this board asked to have a month between when the rates are proposed to them and when they need to make a recommendation, so that because it's a lot to digest.
Okay, absolutely.
So,
When does the commission need it? I think it was it November because they do 2 times at it or what have you?
Sure, so with the goal to have rates effective on January 1st, we would need the final rate recommendations to commission in December, so the 2 meetings in December.
Okay.
I don't recall what the exact date is, but usually the first week in December and third week in December.
You have enough information, Libby?
yes, I think so. I think we're just setting the time frame for that. Okay. And then the next is professional services invoice approvals. And Peter Anderson is not here today, so.
So we can't just come to your training.
I'll do the first one here for a second. I would move that approval of invoice 1133 for Hafner Group in the amount of $582.38 be approved.
Support?
There's a motion by member Chamberlain and a second by member Vincenzi to approve the Hefner invoice as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, I'm sorry, I abstained.
What is that, 6 to 0,
6 yes.
one abstention, yeah.
I'd move approval of the Prine and Newhoff invoice number 96620 in the amount of $378 be approved.
Motion by member Chamberlain and a second by member Vincenzi to approve the Prine and Newhoff invoice as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0 and 1 abstention. I believe that's all. Or is there one more?
I'll make a motion to approve the Meridian invoice 125 in the amount of $254.63.
Support.
There's a motion by Member Crum and a second by Member Rollins to Roland to accept the Main Meridian invoice as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain?
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0 and 1 abstention. Committee member alternate attendee guest comments this morning. Start with Anna, any comment? Jerry?
Does your consumer's confidence report cover we're supposed to by September 30th have a new one for the feds for copper and lead. Does yours cover that, your report?
So our report still references the state limit, which is currently 12. It does not reference that new limit, so our water quality report will reference that in 2027 for the 2026 water report. So this report is the newest report issued in July, but it covers the calendar year of 2025.
Yeah, because the feds are requiring a new one by September 30th. 35th Street, can you tell me what was done? It threw us off guard because the traffic changed and the rest of it.
Yeah, that's a water main loop in ML with 35th Street, and so we can provide looped water to the Castle Creek, am I saying that right? The Castle Creek housing development that's kind of at the top of that 35th Street hill. And that's substantially complete, so that's open now, open for traffic.
It caught us off guard because we had all this traffic down 38th Street. Didn't know where it was coming from. Water.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry.
Thank you. Anna, any comments?
Good, thank you.
How's this sewer work coming?
We're coming to your house next.
Mark,
No comment except thank you. Excellent meeting again.
David, anything?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone online wishing to comment? Hearing none, we'll continue with our members. Tom, any comments?
Comments?
None.
Question. A few months ago, we were here, and I believe it was discussed, there was I don't want to say a fund, but assistance for people who were struggling with rate issues. So is that something that was happening?
Yes.
I was curious, how much attention has been, or how much has that been, that service been utilized?
So that's a program that remains in place. It's a water affordability program that covers folks that are income eligible, families that are experiencing some challenges in meeting their utility bill payments, and it covers families up to 200% of federal poverty. So if you're a family of four, that's a little bit over $65,000 a year that you'll continue to be eligible for that program. That program pays for water bills in arrears, so it'll cover all your water bills and will keep your water on. That program is administered through Community Action Agency of South Central Michigan, and we've got a number for that on everybody's water bill, whether you're in arrears or not. That number is on your water bill. That number is on the outside of the bill for all past due notices and all shut off notices as well. So you don't even have to open the bill. The number's on that, printed right on the outside. That program has helped over 460 families last year. So there's been excellent participation in that program. We can tell you from the city's perspective, our number of shut-offs has declined and continues to decline. We still do shut-offs, we still, that's an unfortunate part of the work that we do, but those numbers are declining, so we are seeing that a lot of families are
I'm just
taking
curious
advantage of that.
how that's, people are responding to that.
It works very well, and, we would encourage families to qualify, or we encourage families to reach out and call that number. That program also has what we call categorical qualification. So as a family, if you are already in a program, if you're already receiving, for example, supplemental nutrition assistance program, you're automatically qualified. So it might be very easy for you to qualify as a family. We would encourage you to reach out, call the number, and let's get you some help on those utility bills.
Thank you.
That program's funded through the state, correct?
Correct, that program is funded through a state grant and it's administered by the Community Action Agency.
Okay.
And that program will be running through 2027 as well.
Great, thank you for that update.
And the UPC, before the grant came available, UPC pledged.
A percentage.
1%
Yeah.
on rates to support the program, so.
I thought I remembered that. I was just trying to get some clarity on that. I thought I remembered something with it also.
So
Thank
when
you.
the grant dies or is expended, then I would guess it would probably come back to the UPC and that
Thank you.
I would expect the UPC would likely continue supporting that program.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Did you have a question on this program?
Yeah, is that for homeowners and renters, anybody with a water bill?
It's anybody with a water bill.
Okay, and can you
it's-
remind me what the program's called again?
It's a emergency assistance program. So if you go to the Community Action Agency website, they've got like a tab for emergency assistance. And in that tab describes it. And it's anybody that pays a water bill in any Kalamazoo County jurisdiction or any one of our partner jurisdictions. So you don't have to get a water bill from City of Kalamazoo. You could get a water bill from City of Galesburg and you still qualify in that program.
Great, thank you.
Peter, anything? Jeff?
Nothing.
The only thing I have is that on the agenda, it states that our next meeting is today. And so actually, it will be August 13th. So thank you all this morning, and we are adjourned. There's a sign-in sheet. If you haven't signed in, please do so.